I still get excited. I still, analysing it and working on the games like we do.
It's that promise of something that can be delivered. Everyone's allowed to dream. And for a team like Toronto FC, it's the start of what they believe can be a very successful journey again towards, winning trophies.
It is Footy Talks for this Friday lunchtime, presented as always by Benjamin Moore. Special guests coming your way today. John Herdman, the head coach of Canada's men's national team, and Toronto FC's newest signing, their latest Scot, Tony Gallacher. Sometimes I say Gallagher, Stevie, but Gallacher, the Scottish way, right?
Yeah, Gallacher, I think. Yeah, that's Gallagher. Yeah, I would never say Gallagher. Gallacher.
So, yesterday, we have to start with the privilege we had, KJ, of being alongside Stevie in the TSN studio while he was watching Scotland in the European Championship qualifying playoff semi-final against Israel at Hampden Park in Glasgow, a rainy Glasgow. A TFC connection there, by the way, because former TFC head coach John Carver, people might not know, is now an assistant coach, part of the coaching staff there with Scotland. And there were a few ups and downs, KJ, during the 90 minutes plus more downs than ups, absolutely. But then right at the end, first ever penalty shootout for Scotland, Stevie, and they managed to get through.
Managed to get through and looked like Germany while we were taking the penalty. Looked like Azerbaijan during the game, and then we looked like Germany during the penalties. It was just magnificent performance. The only real quality in the game was when Scotland went to that spot. And they took the penalties. Every one of the guys. Well, no, John McGinn was lucky, wasn't he? The first one was kind of sneaked under the body of the goalkeeper Marciano from Hibs, but every other one was brilliant. KJ, wasn't it? It was the time they showed real quality in the game. Unfortunately,
no nerves at all. Steps up, bang, and steps them in. Good for them. It was the highlight of the day for us, no doubt about it. Look, it's great that international football was back. We had, it's a unique playoff format when you've got knockout games and there's a lot of tension and a lot on the line for these federations. But, for me, being in the studio with you boys again for, 7 hours is again, another pleasurable day. And watching my good mate be a fan for a few hours was actually really nice to see, because, he sees me sometimes with my teams and the highs and lows and that. And Steve's a pretty level-headed fella. When you become a professional athlete, you don't have too many highs and too many lows. But that day, he was a fan again, and it was actually nice to see, Luke.
The crazy thing was, we do the pre-game show, and it was all rah Scotland. We're going to get through, which they did. Now they're going to play Serbia for the right to get beaten by England at the Euros next summer.
Be careful, mate.
But he was pretty confident, right? In that pregame show yesterday, he was smiling. There was a little bit nervous, but more relaxed and just ready for what was to come. And then by 20 minutes in, it had come off the rails a little bit, hadn't it? I mean, you just sort of, you'd resigned yourself to what was coming.
Yeah, it was difficult to watch, I have to say, after thinking about it and texting me a few people, calling a few people last night. It was difficult to watch. It was, you're watching these guys, and we had McTominay from Man United, we had McGinn from Aston Villa, started the season so well. We had Robertson, one of the best left backs in the world, playing at Liverpool.
Best strikers, David McGoldrick.
McBurney was up top.
McGoldrick was playing for Ireland. It was a Blades day yesterday. They were all over the place.
They were everywhere. So, to put in that performance was so disappointing, KJ, to see how these guys, put on that Scotland shirt and they don't quite show any of that club form. And it was like watching football for a few years ago, unfortunately. It was a lot of channel balls and longer balls forward and fighting for scraps. And yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good, but we're through. And when you play games like that, the most important thing is that you progress. And so we'll live to fight another day. Hopefully we can improve things before we play a pretty formidable Serbia. KJ, you could tell us a bit more about them because you watched that game closely, Norway-Serbia.
Yeah, Serbia were excellent. A lot of the discussion was around Norway coming in with, quite rightly, Martin Ødegaard and Erling Haaland. And, ultimately we thought that they would be able to deliver Norway, but they were 2 banks of 4 and very dull. And Serbia were able to play through them and were magnificent and they deserved the victory. But, I can say this with all the love in my heart for Scots because I've got family there and obviously Stevie's one of my best mates. But I think by the time it comes up to November 12th in that final, I think Stevie and all the Scots will believe they're going to win again, because this is what they do. And it's wonderful to see, because they actually have so much positivity building up to a game. They plan and they plan and they plan. And then the game happens and they go, oh, we're just rubbish again. I knew this, we were rubbish. And then the game happens and then they have this wonderful way of filtering out the evidence and then building themselves up again. And here we go again, rah, rah, we're going to win. And then often they let themselves down, but yesterday they didn't, and that was what was special about it. But to Stevie's point about international football, it is a sport that is almost a different sport to what we watch in the club game in Europe. You talk about Robertson and McGinn and performing at a high level, Premier League and other players, and they go into that system and the coaching, and it's just, wow, it's boring and it's really dull, and it's nowhere near I know there's a lot on the line, I know there's a lot of anxiety, but it's nowhere near the level of club football and the intricacies of the relationships that have developed. But it'll be the same thing. International football can provide things that club football can never bring. Then that's what makes it unique and special.
Andy's probably along the lines there. Serbia are going to run them riot. Well, we'll wait and see. We will have the games for you on
TSN them around, that's for sure,
in November. Do let us know where you're watching or listening to Footy Talks from. I'd love to give you a mention. Thank you to everybody who is tuned in today. John Herdman, Tony Gallacher to come. Juan Manuel Lacanzo is a TFC fan in Argentina. So hi to you all the way over there in Argentina. Awesome. They were in action yesterday in World Cup qualifying, weren't they? So Messi scored.
South American qualifying's back, boys. Doesn't get much better than that. It'd be nice to be able to see it in this country, but that's another discussion maybe for another day. But it's actually a really good example of showing other federations, and it's important. We've got John Herdman on later. If this South American World Cup qualifying can carry on and we can move forward without any complications, then it does set a little bit of a template up for CONCACAF. But if things don't go necessarily well there, with countries switching countries and traveling internationally, then we'll have to keep our fingers crossed it doesn't go that way.
Hi to Joe in Etobicoke, Ivan's in Mississauga, which isn't quite Argentina, but anyway, North Macedonia are close to making a major tournament for the first time. We had probably outside of Georgia and Belarus, I think we did more coverage on that game yesterday than anywhere else in the world on TSN. But North Macedonia and Georgia got to go head-to-head for a place in the next in the Euros when the final takes place in November. Eric is in Grimsby, presumably Grimsby, Ontario, not Grimsby on the east coast of England, where you can get deep-fried Mars bars in the chip shop just around the corner from Blundell Park there at Grimsby Town.
Talking from experience, Luke.
Absolutely from experience. I don't think you can in Grimsby, Ontario, but you never know. It's been a good week for Toronto FC, boys. Again, we saw them, and you know this, Stevie, that when you're going to have a successful season, it isn't just winning the same way all the time. Sometimes you have to go and grind out different results. We saw them do it at New York City. We saw them have very good second half performances against Columbus and Philly, against very good teams. And then under difficult circumstances, on a difficult pitch at Gillette Stadium the other night, they managed to find a way to win.
Yeah, they did. And they did it quite comfortably, Luke. And I know that Adam Buxa missed a penalty, blazing it over the crossbar. And it was a bit of a rash challenge by Marco Delgado, but take that away and, Toronto FC were pretty comfortable. They set their stall out, scored their goal, they went back into deep 2 banks of 4 and worked really hard to deny New England the opportunities that they really need to score goals. They had done their homework on that team, and they were pretty confident that once they had the lead, that they would with a game plan that they did, that they would prevent them from scoring a goal, and it turned out to be that way. And I think they had some decent chances on the break, but all in all, it was a performance where I think, and maybe Tony Gallacher will be able to help us with this when he explains it, but I think they conserved some energy. I think that they managed to do it in second or third gear, with all due respect, and that's important, because when games are coming thick and fast, if you can win them without really overexerting yourself, KJ, it's a big thing, because you save a little bit in the tank for the next game and the next game, and it means that you can keep this run rolling along, hopefully. Yeah,
look, there's no game of football that's ever identical to the next, but I would say that, whenever you have an opportunity to play different styles, you're going to have an opportunity to say, oh yeah, okay, well, right now this is a bit more of a tighter game. Against Columbus, they had to step up in the second half, and Philadelphia was a bit more of a wide open game. So I really enjoyed the fact that they show different ways to win games. I think that's important. Like you know, the game wasn't, I think, a massive test. There was no Gustavo Bo, no Collis Hill. So that's also something that I would say was probably, if you're a New England fan, you'd be frustrated with, because their two best players not on the field, certainly from an attacking unit. But I think TFC, for the most part, showed an ability to control the game and not, as you said, exert a lot of energy during a very busy stretch. And I think we're pretty good in the system that they played as well, because the system they played, is they're still tweaking it as they go. And, you know, Altidore wasn't there, but they pushed Pozuelo a little bit higher, brought De Leon in there as well. And, you know, I think, you know, Jonathan Osorio, you know, not getting the goals this year, but I think his performances in central midfield are going a little bit under the radar. I think his reading of the game is really important. But the other thing I would say is that the way that they play quickly through the lines is particularly coming from him. You know, they have this ability to be quite, you know, it's not really direct, but it's go forward, bang, 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 play at a higher tempo. And I think it'll be interesting to see whether Osorio continues in that role if and when Michael Bradley gets back into the team.
Yeah, and we saw it again from Ayo Akinola, what he's all about. In the absence of Josie Altidore as well, Ayo Akinola this season has really had that opportunity and has taken it. So that is the Benjamin Moore do-it-yourself play of the game for this week's Footy Talks. It is Ayo Akinola the other night at Gillette Stadium. Let's take a look at that, and you can just see, well, first off, Stevie, you said this wasn't a foul. I did think there was a shove there. If I was the ref, I would probably have given a free kick, but I know I might be in the minority here.
Wait, Wildman's got an opinion?
Yeah, that's it's very opinionated off the camera, KJ, the other night.
Listen,
you know, sitting on the fence as usual during the game, so
Yeah.
let's look at that again. I mean,
I'm not paid to give opinion, right? You are, but when you get it wrong, I have to say something.
yeah, look, it's 50-50. You know, it really is for me. It's I think it's just about all right, but I can see why you know, KJ will get to his opinion in a minute, but he thinks that it's a foul, and you do as well, Luke, because there is a bit of the arm there. I think it's just subtle enough and just gets away with it that I think there's a bit of shoulder there, but it's certainly a challenge from Akinola. Shows his strength against one of the strongest defenders in the league, in Andrew Farrell, and then his ability to finish it. And, you know, his pace as well. He gave Farrell a little bit of a warning before where he missed the target, should have did better. But that one there, I think, you know, 50-50, VAR should never have stepped in for me, KJ. They did the right thing. Whether it was a foul or not a foul, I think that it was a referee's discretion, and it would never have been clear and obvious, because it's right on the border for me, 50-50.
Yeah, I went the other way. It's not that far away from 50-50. I think it's a foul. You know, I think it's a forearm shove. By the way, Nima Sagafi, the referee, is a good referee, but he's miles away from the play. He's miles away. Because what happens is, as you mentioned there when we showed it, the quick transition, Osorio does the spin. He's still a long way behind Osorio, too. He's getting out the way of the game. The ball plays into the thing. His assistant actually has a really good call, a good look at it, I think, but it probably wasn't necessarily one where the assistant thought he should come in and make that call. Maybe the assistant is at that point now ingrained in his mind to think, I'm going to stay out of this, and if they think it's a foul, they're going to get involved in it, so I'm not going to give it. So I think all in all, that's like a perfect storm to not be given the foul, but for me, it was a foul. But you know, a lot of these arguments they're just pointless, because the game's done. I think the biggest thing is when you look at it, what can you learn from it going forward? I think you can learn the fact that defenders will look at Ayo Akinola and understand his reading of the game is now getting to an exceptional level in Major League Soccer. Andy, it wasn't shoulder on shoulder; it was a forearm shove. Yeah,
it's pointless arguing about it now. It's done.
Yeah, it is. It's pointless. But I'm just pointing out the facts. But for me, Akinola is intimidating for a Major League Soccer defender, because he's got that pace and he's got that strength, and he sits on the shoulder and he brings a different level of an attack that TFC. Hey, Terry. Terry Dunfield in the house. Never a foul. I'm actually not surprised Terry thinks it was never a foul. But what I was going to say is that a lot of TFC's play is in front of defenders a lot this season. And there's nothing wrong with that. They've got a lot of architects. They've got a lot of technicians. And when you've got Pozuelo and Piatti playing, okay, that's fine. But you need the ability to go beyond, Stevie. If you're defending against TFC right now, Akinola has given them a different dimension to their attack. And that allows TFC to play that way, that they can spring from into a transition like that. And when Osorio makes the turn and Pozuelo breaks away and he's got 2-on-2, Pozuelo knows now he can make that pass, and the attack is going to be to continue into the final third because of Akinola's pace. You can only play that way if you've got an attacker who's got pace. No disrespect to somebody like Lucas Cavallini, but the Whitecaps have tried that exact same play twice already over the last 4 weeks, and it's failed because Cavallini doesn't have the pace to do it. He's a very good player. I'm not saying anything about him, but they're not playing to his strengths, while this is playing to your player's strengths, TFC. You play the ball quick, and he's away from the defender because the defender is worried he's already on the shoulder anyway, and then he uses his physical attributes, Stevie. So we can get, as I said, we can go down a rabbit hole if we want and talk about foul or no foul, but I think the fact that he scored the goal, other defenders and other coaching staffs will be looking at that and going, how can we handle Ayo Akinola, who's got a lot of confidence right now, particularly on the shoulder of defenders, and then when he's beyond in one-on-one situations with the goalie.
Yeah, his profile is absolutely perfect for the team, isn't it, KJ? He's a lad who has shown the maturity in his play to be patient enough to wait on the opportunities. He didn't get a lot of touches the other night, but he was one of the best players in the park because he was so threatening every time the ball came near him, and that is a skill in itself. Then his strength and his pace to run into channels, to keep Farrell and Kessler back, and to create the areas of space for Pozzuelo and Piatti and even Delgado when he goes forward, De Leon, is vital. It's absolutely vital for Toronto FC, and I think he's playing the role really, really well. I think he's getting a little bit better every single game. His finishing has been really good as well. He's been pretty prolific. 2 chances there, and one of them's in the back of the net. I think it's pretty good for an MLS striker. And he's showing all the signs of being the guy, being able to handle that responsibility in the absence of Jose Altidore, and to really lead that line with a profile of what they need. And so important he keeps his feet in the ground. He needs to keep it going. That's the hardest thing for a youngster, to just get to their levels every single week when it's something kind of new to you. But very impressed with him. He's really having a tremendous season for TFC.
And Greg Vanney as well was able to make a few changes. Alex Bono gets the clean sheet. Of course, we saw the change with Lawrence Simon coming in. He didn't want to play Omar Gonzalez full games on turf back-to-back because, of course, Cincinnati is on turf this weekend. He had the opportunity to bring Auro in the second half as well. So despite the fact that there's no Josie Altidore and no Michael Bradley available at the moment, and Justin Morrow is out, there are different options there for Greg Vanney, and always good when you're able to get a win, KJ, by managing your pieces and being able to keep a couple fresh for the weekend. But we might again see more rotation this coming weekend. I
would expect we will, Luke. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think Greg Vanney's mentioned it a couple of times now. He's juggling a few balls in the air, and one of them is momentum. He wants to keep that momentum going. Another one is to give an opportunity to players and sprinkle opportunities in there. And he did that on the weekend, obviously at midweek as well, bringing in Lawrence Simon. I wouldn't be surprised to see someone like Zavaleta come in on the weekend. Will he play players like Mavinga back-to-back on turf? And it's going to be interesting to see that. Does he go with back-to-back with Piatti? Does he look at a game where he can give Pozzuelo a rest? There's another game in midweek as well on the 14th. So, not to disrespect Cincinnati, but TFC are final. They're okay right now. I mean, of course you want to win the Supporters Shield, but you don't need to win if ultimately you've got to be able to keep these guys fresh mentally and physically ready for the playoffs. And it's a challenge because they're away from home as well. So if there's, substantial changes on Sunday, then I would not be surprised at all to see that.
Yeah, I think that some of the guys, like you said, KJ, could be changed there. But the important thing is, you mentioned Osorio, his role within the team, Delgado as well. These guys can go as many times as they want. So it's up to Greg Vanney, if he just thinks freshening up that area, or maybe Fraser gets a chance, maybe they tweak the formation a little bit, they try something else. I think this is a game that you can experiment a little with the 11 and even with the formation if you want to try something different. No disrespect to Cincinnati, but the looks like they'll probably play quite defensive, and they're one of the poorer teams in the league. And so TFC have an opportunity here to do something a little bit different, and I think that would be fair enough considering what's coming ahead for them in the coming weeks and months.
We were talking about the differing opinions on the Akinola. Was it a foul? Wasn't it a foul? And it was interesting talking about different opinions on fouls. After the game in midweek, we get a lot of help and information from super statsman Martin Bailey, who is just an absolutely font of all knowledge when it comes to Toronto FC. The records that he has, have to thank him for the way that he sends them online on Twitter during games as well, so that we can pass those on to a wider audience on the broadcast as well. It really helps us paint a picture. But after the game, or yesterday it was, he tweeted out, if TFC keep 11 on the pitch against Cincinnati, they will go 25 matches without seeing a red card. And that will be the joint third longest stretch in TFC history. Now, the longest stretch of games without a red card for TFC is 41 games back in 2013, 2014. But it all came to a shuddering halt on the 23rd of May, 2014 at Kansas City, when Baldomero Toledo showed a red card to Stephen Caldwell.
Shocking decision.
Here's the incident.
I'll let everyone think for themselves, but it's a shocking decision. I wish I was actually playing and calling this game.
If they've forgotten, they can judge this for themselves here as Stevie comes in and takes Diwali just around the midriff.
Runs into my foot.
Sorry?
He runs into my foot. I get the ball. Definitely 100% the ball. His body then comes into my foot. He needed. Look, I'm asking him, why are you rolling around? That little man. He's a good little player, that lad, actually. I was surprised he left MLS so quickly, but I definitely got the ball.
Because he didn't want to be chopped by you. Look at that. There's no ball there.
You get the ball.
You got the ball, but you followed through on his knee.
No,
right?
He run into my leg. Caught him a little bit.
Yeah, you caught him, mate. You did catch him, mate.
I'd
have your back, but I think if I was saying that, I think I'm doing sidelines, by the way. It doesn't show it there, but I'm doing sidelines, and Stevie has to run off down the sidelines afterwards. And I have to say, I never forgot his face. I was like, I wouldn't mess with him right now. He's steaming. Friday night in Kansas City, I remember it well.
When I searched for that clip, I searched for Stephen Caldwell sent off Kansas City 2014, something like that. Up comes this article first from MLSsoccer.com. Headline, Toronto FC Stephen Caldwell disputes red card awarded in Kansas City. Quote, it looks worse than it was.
Got the ball. I maintain that I got the ball. Do you know what?
Get the ball.
You might argue with this, but I never, ever went in to hurt a player. I always went for the ball. Always.
No, I don't believe you went in to take him at the midriff.
Every single time I went in for the ball. And yeah, I did catch a few guys in my time, but honestly, never intentional. And my eyes were on the ball there. And I know when you see it, a red card's the right decision. But at the time, I know I got to the ball first. And I honestly believed that it was a harsh red card. I really did.
That's okay. It's taken 6 years in a global pandemic, and now we finally have the truth.
Well, I never admitted that it was the right decision.
You just said a red card was right. Red card.
One to my mouth. I didn't. I just said that I can see the ref's way of thinking. Maybe I owe Toledo a bit of an apology.
I like the lean into Toledo. Stevie's always got that lean into the ref as if like, don't mess with me, son.
What are you going to do about it, hey? Listen, we got a little under 10 minutes before John Herdman joins us, the head coach of Canada's men's national team here on Footy Talks, presented by Benjamin Moore, and Tony Gallacher to come up a little later on as well from TFC, live and direct from home in Hartford. But we can't let this show go without talking about the Premier League that happened last weekend, and one of the days that KJ has got to dine out on for years to come, as Aston Villa scored a bucket full of goals against Liverpool.
Yes, we did.
Villa Park.
Well, I mean, 2 or 3 extraordinary results, really, in the Premier League last weekend.
Yeah, remarkable results. Obviously, Manchester United got tonked against 6-1 at home to Spurs. And then, I'm sure some Liverpool fans were having a good laugh about that. I know a few that were. And then suddenly they had a little bit of humble pie as well, and they got smashed by Villa 7-2. So, just an unbelievable day of football. It's strange because, as I said earlier, Stevie being a fan, I'm a fan of this club. I'm a broadcaster. I've broadcasted Premier League for a long time. I've written about it. I do it in Sirius on a Monday night. But now I'm not doing the games on TV. I can be a fan again, and just to watch it with my son and explain to him that, I've been waiting years for that result. I grew up in the northwest of England where everybody in my school was either a Liverpool fan or a Man United fan. All of them. Just Liverpool fans and Man United fans. They didn't have Villa fans in my school where I grew up. Nobody was a Villa fan, apart from us as family, because where we lived.
Not even Villa fans in Birmingham. They're all Birmingham City fans, or Wolves, or West Brom, or some.
Okay, wow, man, that's a word.
You're right, Luke.
Stevie, are you serious? Are you going to go with him on this argument?
Birmingham, I know for a fact that most of the city supports Birmingham City, and
he plays for them.
Birmingham support Aston Villa. Sutton Coldfield, these areas support Aston Villa.
Wow, come on! It's the biggest club in the city. It's not even close. So it's not a debate. But no, so yeah, it was special. It was a special day. And the other thing about Liverpool is that everybody's got that club you support. Everybody's got a team, no matter what your team is. In the NFL, hockey, you always have a team you support, and you always play that one team. You go, we never beat these guys. We never beat these guys. This is the team. This was the team for Villa. It was Liverpool. Liverpool smashed us all the time. Gerrard, hat-tricks, Robbie Fowler, Michael Owen. We beat them in the 2015 FA Cup semi-final. They were coming to the end of their time with Rodgers, so that was different. But other than that, their record against Villa is unbelievable. You can check it in Villa Park, Anfield, doesn't matter. So it was good. It was a good day, and certainly one I enjoyed a lot. And by the way, Jack Grealish, who's got a lot of headlines this week for his performance against England, for England against Wales, was absolutely magnificent. Is unquestionably the best, and I've seen almost every Villa game he's played. Unquestionably the best performance he's ever had in a Villa shirt. And I had to smile a little bit yesterday when suddenly the English press are all over him today because of how well he played for England in a friendly against Wales, saying he now belongs in an England shirt. Well, look, no offense here, but international sport's way behind the Premier League. If you can perform at a high level in the Premier League, Stevie, then playing for England in a friendly at Wales is nice, but it shouldn't suddenly ratify the need of why you should play for England. It's if you're playing consistently for in the Premier League, you need your chance, and he's got it, and he delivered. Yeah,
I think he's really maturing, KJ. I think he's a lad who is finding his true self. He looks comfortable in his own body. He's a man now, really. And I think he's had these kind of naive, petulant moments in the past, but I don't see that coming into his game or his personal life these days. And so credit to him. He's done really well. And now, I thought last season he was really good, but I thought he was lacking the support, the end product a lot of times. This season he has the support. Yeah. They've given the pieces that he needs to play with. Barkley's coming in, you've got Ollie Watkins up top. Trezeguet's playing some great football as well, isn't he? So yeah. You've got the 8 pieces round about him now, and he believes it's his team. He's got his new deal. He's settled. Everything's set up for the lad to have a magnificent season. And if he has a great season, Villa will have a great season, no doubt about that. So it's, in all honesty, me, guys, I'm a pretty neutral guy. I played with Birmingham, but the Premier League's better for Aston Villa being in it. It's a great club, great stadium, great city. So I'm delighted that they're there, they're doing well. And, I got a soft spot for Dean Smith. I think he's a guy who does things right. He loves his club. It was a bit shaky for him there for a little while, but now with the pieces that he's got, I think they're going to have a good year, and I'm delighted for everyone concerned.
Eric just points out on online there that 19 years ago today, Grimsby Town beat Liverpool. We talked a little bit about Grimsby early on, talking about Liverpool now, and I just searched it up. It was the League Cup third round in 19 years ago, 2001, Tuesday, October the 9th. Liverpool 1, Grimsby Town 2. And I thought, well, Liverpool probably put their reserves out or whatever, but it was Hoopier, Carragher, Schmeitzer, Murphy, Haman, Barmby, McAllister, Littmanen for Liverpool. So it wasn't a bad team there. And Gary McAllister scored a penalty in extra time. And then Marlon Brooms and then Phil Jevons in the 120th minute. Remember him? Won it for Grimsby in the League Cup there. So what a moment.
The same age as me, guys. He's very close because I played against him a lot in reserve football. And I think he's a little bit older than me, Phil. But I remember him. He was a good striker. He was never quite reached the top like some thought, but when he was 18, 19, he was the man, and he was a good player. I remember him well.
And that Liverpool team went on to win all those cups.
Yeah,
so.
UEFA Cup.
Yeah.
Just before we're joined by John Herdman, a couple more on the Premier League. Are Everton the real deal right now, KJ?
I don't know if they're the real deal. I don't think they're going to win the Premier League or anything, but it's absolutely great to see. It's great to watch and someone else challenge the the top teams a little bit. They've sprinkled in some really good signings. James Rodriguez is magnificent. Put paid to all that nonsense that we saw people writing in the first place. This guy's not good enough, and why is he coming in? Can he play in the Premier League and all that stuff? So pushed aside all the English snobbery on that. Ancelotti's finally getting a little bit of respect from some of those English media as well. And they've made great signings. The squad is thin. So you get more injuries, which is going to happen. Calvert-Lewin has been brilliant. He scored against for England as well. But they've got great balance now. Allen's been a great signing for them. There's true balance there. And what you need if you're in Everton is if you want to try and challenge the Champions League clubs is Stevie, you need to get signings that the other clubs are jealous about. They we wish we had them, and they've been doing that for a little bit now, particularly with Digne and Andre Gomes, and now obviously you bring in James Rodriguez and you've got Alan and those kind of players and the settled back four. It's fun to watch. For people of our age, Everton being a big team, it feels right, doesn't it?
Yeah, Everton's another great club, a really terrific club, KJ. So I'm happy for them. And Ancelotti's shown he's pure class as a manager. The nonsense about James Rodriguez. When Carlo Ancelotti signs you 3 times, you're a player, or you're someone really special, and he knows he can get the best out of you. So I was excited to see how it would go, and so far it's been sensational with him. Calvert-Lewin's a guy that I've loved for years. Even when he wasn't scoring goals, I thought this lad, if he puts it together, could be a real handful, and he's proven that. And Richarlison's another one. I think I've said it to you guys in the past a lot of times. I think Richarlison will play for Real Madrid and Barcelona one day, one of the two, because he's that good, in my opinion, and he's shown his form again. So, big test at weekend, isn't it? It's Liverpool who will be coming in there with a bit of a reaction, I think, to that Villa Park game. So should be a big one, and it'll let us know just exactly how good Everton are.
Great to be joined now on Footy Talks, presented by Benjamin Moore, by the head coach of Canada's men's national team, John Herdman. John, hope you're well. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, team. Good to have be on a proper football show, eh?
Hey, we were just talking about Stevie Scotland. He's in a pretty good mood yesterday after that penalty shootout win. We've talked a bit about a really good team that plays in black and white today, Grimsby Town. But what about your boys? Are you happy with Newcastle's start to the Premier League season?
I think Shearer said it the other day. We're either black or we're white. We're either playing against West Ham and looking like we're going to get in the top 6 of the Premier League. Then the next week we're 3-0 at home against Brighton. So look, I'm up at the minute, but I'll be down next week. Where we live here, it's our reality, man. But I'd rather be Newcastle than Grimsby. So put it out.
But we were talking before about getting deep fried Mars bars in Grimsby. I'm not sure they're available in Newcastle, but maybe in the northeast you can. The deep fried Mars bars at the local chippy.
Deep fried Twixes.
Oh, that'll do as well. Listen, we were in studio yesterday, John, doing the Euro qualifiers from all across Europe, and it was great to see the international football there. How difficult has it been for you not being able to get your squad together and having those World Cup qualifiers postponed here when you saw all those other games taking place around the world yesterday in the last few days?
Yeah, gutted. I mean, absolutely gutted. The planning, the communication it's just been chaos. September, first week of September, and we should be playing Bermuda and Cayman now, and we're now looking at trying to get something going for November in Europe, and then a camp in January, trying to get our U23s some opportunity. There's so much fluidity around COVID. Even watching, I mean, Stephen, you're watching Scotland, and you're thinking, like, how many more players are going to pull out of that squad?
Yeah. And
then their whole Euros could have been unhinged on, one more player that would have pulled out. It's like, I think we all thought we were going to come to the back end of this over the summer. I think we could see light at the end of the tunnel. And just these last 3-4 weeks, it's really made us think that even for March, I'm not sure how you bring 30 countries together, teams from all around the world, and run competition in CONCACAF. We're now trying to figure out how to do something in Europe, and all the players have different restrictions. Every country has a different mindset on which players can enter, which players can't, and it changes weekly. So we've looked at one location. That location's had to change because only last week they changed their restrictions for a certain group of players. And if you're the US or Mexico, I guess for like a European match in November, you can have more certainty because you've already had that planned probably in March. For the teams that have just had everything cancelled, they're not only trying to find an opponent that's available, you're trying to find a country that will want to host you. It's look, guys, I never thought international coaching would have been analysing COVID spikes. And
you didn't do this on your coaching class?
No, this is not on the license, I'll tell you. But I think it's going to have to be. I mean, moving forward, interesting. I just finished my pro license this year, and one of the last modules was COVID reality. That's one of the modules in health, mental health around COVID. The impact on players and coaches. So already it's starting to come into an education place in coaching.
So, John, without knowing when those games are going to be, I know how much togetherness is so vital for your squad and how much work you've done in building that rapport together. How have you handled that during these times? Are you able to talk to the players consistently? Can you bring them together at some point during an international window when you're not playing, and maybe have some kind of online chat to kind of build that togetherness rather than it just being, again, all very raw when you come back together whenever that day is?
Yeah, look, and again, that team spirit and the team chemistry and the feeling of getting some purpose behind the players, and that's going to be critical, particularly when you go into matches where you're expected to win, and the other team, it's a big cup final for them to beat Canada. We need those contacts, and this is why every day I'm looking for solutions. How do I get my group together? If we can't do November, can we be together in January with a North American group? And in the meantime, it's the constant, connections, communications with players. I mean, that's critical. Just that human connect is like, I can't have conversations with guys in March if I haven't spoken or met them for 2 years. You can't have a performance conversation. That relationship's critical. So, behind the scenes, we've had our town halls with the players where we've given more of a broad brush overview, and then it's just connects. It connects with individuals to figure out where they're at in life. I mean, a couple of the lads have had babies and have entered fatherhood, so some of the conversations are more around how they're managing with a child and then living in the USA and carrying out their pro careers away from their children. I mean, it's a very unique time, I think, for coaches. But if you come right back to our principles, people first. I mean, that's all the relationships, everything about high performance coaching is about that relationship with the person and understanding them. So we've worked behind the scenes to keep those relationships going.
John, I know you well, and I know you love being on the grass most and coaching players, any types of players. How's it been for you? You're also a meticulous planner. Are you used it as an opportunity to plan things better, or are you getting out there with just any group that you can? How's it been mentally for you, just being away from the coaching side?
Yeah, I think this last 2 months personally is hit us hard. Like I'm an optimistic guy, and I think the cancellation of these last games, it sort of really hit you hard mentally and emotionally. We'd put a lot into the planning of it, so it's getting up and going again. It's refocusing the staff on the priorities, which are the player recruitment and constant monitoring and tracking. And I think, like I keep saying about silver linings. The silver lining is we know our players far, far better than we did this time last year. The amount of detail we've been able to get to on the evaluations of players, and the fact that they're playing regularly, you're able to assess them at levels when you're operational. You can't get to those layers. And we've been able to expand that awareness into a group of 80 plus players now. And that's the staff, Mauro, Andrew Olivieri, Alexander Lado, because we haven't been able to get together with players. The amount of data we've been able to generate, an understanding in conversations about people who are tracking, where we see people's ceilings, where they have to get to, then scripting the conversations that are going to have to happen with these players has been awesome. So I think our depth charts are more accurate than they've ever been. And we've had some new players on the horizon. Alistair Johnston at Nashville. I mean, that's a player that we've really been able to get some insights into, which could strengthen our squad moving forward.
You talk about new players potentially coming in. One of the players that hasn't committed yet is Ayo Akinola of Toronto FC. I presume you saw the goal he scored the other night in New England and have been following him closely. What do you like about him, and have you had any conversations personally with him, John?
Yeah, we have. For 2 years, we've been speaking to Ayo, and look, understandably so. The conversations early on were he's part of the US system, the youth system, and the US youth system can offer a dual passport player like him a lot more than the Canadian system, and that's just being real. Like the amount of money that's put into their program, the amount of competition, the contacts, the regularity of their qualification. Look, for Ayo, it was a very clear decision why he would be in that system, and I respected that. But now he's in the men's game, and the gap isn't there. It's not the same gap. The gap is, as we showed in October on the pitch, it's close. It's very close between these teams. So now it comes down to, if you're playing in a match and you're hearing that anthem, like, which one means something to you? Who do you really want to represent as an international player? Like, international football isn't about, the dollars and paying your wages. I don't think it's about that. And many of the top countries, those players are giving them salaries they get in those environments to charities. So what is it about? It's about, how does he feel when he puts that jersey on? And does he feel that he wants to put his body on the line for a country, to take a country to another level, to take it somewhere a country's never been before? That's the opportunity he has with Canada. The US have been places before. They've had their big moments. We're waiting for ours. And we've got a group of players there that I think the youth in that team, he could be part of something really special. And I'm not saying the US don't have a youthful team and they have the same opportunities, and he might feel that in a US shirt. I mean, they're things only he can decide. But the conversations I've had, he knows our depth charts. He can see the opportunity with Canada. There's been a clear plan put in front around his immersion, how we'd work with him over a period of time. The identity of him as a player, his profile, and how it fits our identity. What I've seen in his evolution in 2 years, where his gaps are, what he has to progress to be a staple in the men's national team in Canada. So that conversation's been had in depth. What I've loved about Ayo is one of the key aspects to him is how competitive is this team going to be? Are we going to win things, John? Are we going to get to the next level? How's the environment? How competitive is it? So that was, they were the questions. And, when I say you're training with Alphonso Davies, Johnny David, Jonathan Azario, Scott Arfield, Atiba Hutchinson, Mark Anthony Kerr, it's a competitive environment, Ayo. It's an exciting environment, and it's an exciting time for Canada. So I think with those conversations, it's genuinely going to come down to which country does he feel more. And, he's going to take his time. It's a big decision, and you can't push that decision. Every time he scores, he'll get a note from me, and I'll always have the conversations with him, when I can. And hopefully, January will be a big turning point. I mean, I think the US will have a camp in January. We'll have a camp in January, and he'll probably get an invite to both. So,
but you don't have an inclination right now either way.
He's positive. I mean, if you're on the other end of a call and you've got two national coaches talking to you, you're going to keep both doors open. I'm clear on that. But I would say living in Canada, growing up in Brampton, being a TFC lad, playing in Canada, I think all of that could impact his decisions. I think he knows where his home is, and hopefully he feels it.
John, you talked about Canada still with big moments to come, and I know you won't certainly take for granted the first round of World Cup qualifying. You've got 4 games there that I know you won't allow your squad to look past. But for this question purpose, I will. I want to look ahead to potentially go into an octagon, and I want to ask you about hostile environments and what this group needs. And do they need those games to go to Panama and Honduras and have these difficult matches to play for the togetherness of the group to grow? Because we've seen in some of these countries that their situations like Panama and Honduras, they've gone through those and developed as countries to get to World Cups. How crucial will it be for this group to be able to grow by getting through that process? Obviously, Qatar 2022 is the destination, but how important is the journey if you can get into that octagon?
Well, I think the games that we're going to have in the Nations League, if you think of a match a playoff match potentially against Haiti, where you're home and away, I mean, there's some environments where there'll be some growth for sure. I think what it comes down to, the environments, a lot of these players have been in, hostile stadiums, and players, of the past will talk about the realities of those stadiums. I mean, we don't even know if we're going to play in a hostile stadium. Right. That's what's so bizarre about the thought process of the planning. What it comes down to is purpose. It comes down to who actually wants it more. That's where, when I've listened to the stories of players of old and new, is that for many of the players, just the genuine desire, you keep hearing it, they wanted it more than us. There's a passion to play for Honduras that's been greater than to play for Canada. We've had at times some adventurers that have played for Canada that have enjoyed the international experience, but not the warriors. Guys that are going to go absolutely body on the line and do whatever it's going to take to win a football match. And I think there's something around, for Canada, this whole bubbling up of the generation, the opportunity. It's genuinely breeding a deeper purpose for this group. Number one, not to get beat and keep proving that narrative that we're not good enough. They want to dispel that myth. And I think that's part of what's going to bring that extra 10% when you're in a tough environment. And then the next piece is they want to go to a World Cup. Like, maybe in the past they believed that we might not have the talent to do it, but internally now they believe this. And Christian, the other thing is, you're starting to have more winners in the group. And I've said this in my recruitment to some players. When I'm talking to players that I'm trying to recruit, we need winners in this team. And if you think of, LAFC's Mark Anthony Kerr, he's used to winning now. Jonathan Osorio is used to winning. Richie Laryea is now used to winning. You look at that type of player, not players that are used to being in a club that are scrapping for their lives in the bottom half of a league, week in, week out. I want players who have been into that game in Mexico where they've lost the CONCACAF Champions League, and they've experienced that. They've been in those big moments. So I think we're starting to build a group of players, Alphonso Davies, that are expected to win at the highest levels. And they bring that mindset to the group, and they don't tolerate the mindset that can form when you're in these tough environments.
So is the message now, John, that we are Canada? Let's puff our chests out. Let's be confident and assured in what we do, and let's focus on ourselves, basically, rather than, to me at times there's sometimes too much talk about these environments. We know they're hard, we know they're hostile, we know the pitch is bumpy, and there's noise at 2 a.m. and stuff like that. We know that. We've heard the stories. Now it's about what we do and what we can do as a nation, is it not? And it's about kind of instilling that in this group of 30 plus players, anyone who comes in at any given time, to believe in that red shirt and to go out there and perform to the best of their ability.
Yeah, and I think you can't have bravado on that. It can't be something that you just talk about. You've got to have people in there that have experienced that, and it's part of their DNA now, and they drive it from within. I mean, you were part of the preparation for the US game away. And look, we went in there with our identity. We pressed them from the first minute to the last. We got on the front foot and we said, we're not going to be that team that drops off, plays for the draw, and sits back. That's not the mentality of this group. And part of it is being that, shifting the mindset. You were part of the game in October where we said, we're gonna get right on the front foot and impose ourselves on an American team. And we're going to do it home and away, because this is where we're going to be. This is New Canada. And you can argue, well, you know, sometimes you've got to get off the back foot and just, you know, manage the game more carefully. In this group's mind, it's more about showing we're going to be a front foot team to prepare that mindset that when we go into Honduras, like, we're not going to take a backward step. We're not going to wilt towards the poor me and the poor conditions. We're different. And we've been generating this. I mean, games we've played in 2018, 2019, we've set over 10 different records now in goals scored. We've changed the way we think and go about games. So in typical games against the USVI, you know, they're happy to come off the field with a 4-0 win because the conditions were this. In that game, we were clear we're going to break the record. And right up until the last whistle, we're pushing for another goal. And with that, Stephen, like I say, I totally agree with what you're saying, that if we're going to take the next step, it's about the mindset of the group and an expectation that we're going to a World Cup, not trying to get there. And that's what we've been shifting over a 2-year period of time.
Just finally, John, I wish we could talk for longer, but we've only got a couple of minutes left, unfortunately. I just want to get your brief thoughts on a couple of players. One, Jonathan David, and what you've seen from him since he made the move to Ligue 1 and settling in there. But first, Richie Laryea and what we continue to see from him and his development for TFC, whether it's playing as a right back, a left side midfield player at one point. He spent time on the right side midfield. Like, the versatility, the development we've seen from him. What have you made of that this year?
I think firstly, I think you've got to tip your hat to Greg Vanney. I mean, he's brought something out of that player that no one could. And you know, I think what he's done is what is at the core of any coach's craft, is to bring the best out of the people you work with. So, you know, watching Richie this year, I think there's been another evolution in its consistency. I thought last year there were up and down performances, and we spoke about that at the beginning of the year. Just how he has to now achieve a level of consistency. So he's done something in his own craft, his own professionalism, to allow him to be this player he is now. And then I think Greg Vanney he's put so much belief and confidence in Richie that, you know, you see it on the pitch every time he plays. So when I watch Richie now, you know, I flicked a text to Fonzie a couple of weeks ago when he had that assist down the left side and said, "Watch out, Richie's coming." And then he does it again on the right. I mean, that's what's exciting. He's becoming a hybrid player, a player that, you know, for Canada, we could play him on the right, we could play him on the left, which gives us more flexibility to our team. And again, when you see fullbacks like Alistair Johnson starting to form and Kamal Miller getting consistency in his game time at fullback, you know, you start to think of where else can you do with Richie Laryea? Where else can he play for our team, given, you know, how you manage games? Does he play in front of a fullback in a game you want to keep more tight? So look, just excited, really excited. And you know, congrats to Greg for what he's achieved there. But for Richie, you know, he's taken himself to a new level this year.
And Jonathan David?
You know what, with Johnny, I think you have to tip your hat again to the decision they made to go to Lille, him and his advisors, because I spoke to a Premiership sporting director about Johnny when the recruitment processes were happening. And if he'd gone to the Premier League, my feeling is the pressure there, and then I think he wouldn't have been given this time to evolve. And I think in France, at Lille, they were very clear that this club had a strategy, as well as a track record for giving young players a chance to flourish. And to be fair, you've seen it. He's needed the 4 games to build rhythm with this team. And it's like any young player. He could have came in, scored his first game, and he's a hero, and off he goes. But for a lot of young players, they don't score on the first game. And in the Premiership, the second and third, he could have already been out that squad. So what I've seen is in 4 games, you've seen he's in the rhythm now of Lille. That last game, you could see he's way more in sync with that front 5, with the tactics. And I feel like they've adapted to let him go into those places and play deeper. If you know Johnny, that's where he comes alive. He's like a ghost. He wants to live in the half spaces, in the grey areas between zones, and then arrive late. So I think they're starting to get the best out of him. So I just think it's a really clever decision for that player to make that step into Lille.
Quick one for me, John, before we let you go on Alfonso. You mentioned you sent him a text there. You know him better than all of us. When he's won the biggest thing there is to win now as a teenager in the UEFA Champions League, I'm sure that presents a massive, massive addition to your squad and what he can bring about being winners. Are there any challenges there that you're going to have with a young teenager who's done everything in the club game when he comes back? I would imagine he might be a little bit harder to manage in some areas. I mean, it's just to be honest. I mean, I'm sure there's some tasks there that you might have to work on with him as well. No?
Well, I think it's a loaded question, isn't it? I think you know the answer. I mean, I think that the challenge that I've got is I've never been 19-year-old with that much talent and that much money, you know?
Right. That's why I generally don't know the answer. That's why I threw it out there.
Yeah. But I think when you look at this, and you can use examples of Gareth Bale, and I remember speaking to Chris Coleman about Bale and how he operated in that environment. I think the challenge for any player is not to put too much on him. I think this is the critical part. There's a real balancing act of, look, Fonzie, you could be the absolute game winner for this team. You need to go and win this game. It's not a need. It's about how he can work with other players in the team to get this combined energy. How he can bring the best out of people, how people are going to bring the best out of him. And then I think you have to take this complete, like, you're the man off him at this stage, because when that is put on a player, I think a whole other set of behaviors can form, which will be unhelpful. And then I think, Christian, the other part is just everyone recognizing that, like, he's still got a job to do on the pitch. So everyone's going to want to market the hell out of him and talk to him. And he has got a responsibility there, without a doubt. So, you know, I think it's a lot of what we've got to get right off the pitch so that he can still, 1, be a teenager, 2, not a teenager, a young player, 2, enjoy his football, enjoy it. And then 3, go into games with an expectation, but that the whole world's not on your shoulders. And I think they're the 3 sort of spheres I've got to carefully work in and speak to him about what he wants. Because if you see the guy, I mean, his personality, he loves being in front of people. He loves it. So it's, managing all of that, but right at the heart of it, speaking to him and see what he wants out of this career, because he's in a different stratosphere now.
Looking forward, John, to seeing you in the next Alfonso Davies TikTok video, whenever that may happen. Best of luck for whatever comes the next few weeks. Hopefully you can get a camp sorted out either in November or in January, and really appreciate you taking the time to join us today here on Footy Talks. And best of luck for Newcastle United.
Thanks, man. Thanks for that. Hey, Stephen, what do you reckon? Top 6 or not? Can we get there?
I'll settle for missing relegation, John. I'm a realist.
Always realistic. Thanks, John.
Cheers, John.
John Herdman, the head coach of Canada's men's national team, with us on Footy Talks. And let's get straight to our final guest on the show today, live and direct from Toronto FC's home headquarters in Hartford, Connecticut. It is Tony Gallacher, the TFC defender, Toronto FC's newest addition, of course. And we now have in the same place at the same time online, Toronto FC's only 2 ever Scottish players, both defenders, Stevie and Tony Gallacher. Thanks for joining us, Tony.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
We'll just let you two talk together for a little bit about the penalty shootout and what happened yesterday, because it was a very stressful afternoon for Stevie, but ultimately he left the studio smiling when we'd done that Scotland game, didn't he?
He was a relieved man.
I did. Did you get to watch it, mate?
I managed to get a stream, only the last 20 minutes or so, though, but...
Right.
That's fine. The rest of it was...
Yeah, that's what they were saying. I was staying back home. There wasn't much to see anyway, so I probably tuned in at the right time.
How have you settled in with life in Toronto and what must have been a really difficult circumstance coming over the quarantine? I heard you say you'd never been to Canada, North America before, and then the move en masse with everybody to Hartford. What's it been like for you, Tony?
Yeah, it's not been at all what I expected, but obviously that's the way it is just now. So coming over wasn't a problem, not at all for myself. I'm willing to do the travel and stuff, as I've proven. And settling in wise, it's been made easy for me. I came in and then getting to go away with the boys. It's almost like a pre-season, getting to be with them in the hotel, spending like breakfast, lunch, dinner, training. You're always with them. So in that sense, it was good to get to know as many of them as quickly as possible. So obviously I know it's not been normal circumstances for any of us. So as a team, we're coping with it. And myself, I'm finding it quite easy, to be honest, like with the boys and the manager, the coaching staff. It's been good for myself, yeah.
Tony, how long did it take you to realize when you stepped into the environment that it's an environment that requires winning right away? Because I think there's been a common thread over the last few years with TFC acquisitions that they get going pretty fast, and those that don't leave pretty quickly as well, because that winning mentality is ingrained in you pretty quickly, I would imagine.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, coming from like an academy team based, sometimes they focus more on development rather than that winning mentality. So I knew at this point in my career, like I needed to get most of that back into me, because I came from Scotland, from first team football, where a win's everything. It doesn't matter how you do it. If you need to grind out wins, if you need to, there's just different ways to do it. So coming over, I didn't know too much. I'll be honest. I didn't know too much about the league, about the team. But I made sure to do my research. I had plenty of time in my quarantine to do that. So I was well educated on that. But for me, it's ideal. At the stage of my career right now, just turning 21, coming into a team that wants to win trophies and go for the wins and everything. For me, it's like the perfect situation, definitely.
Who's taking you under their wing, Tony? Who's sort of made you feel most welcome, and who you kind of kicking a bit with in Hartford?
Well, at first, there was that connection with Chris Mavinga, obviously, with the Liverpool connections he's had. So I came in and he was talking to me, talking about stuff when he played, who the manager was and stuff. But ever since I've been here, going for coffees and stuff with Griffin, Jacob and Kev, the goalkeeper, just all the 99s. And so I've managed to sneak my way in, make a 4 of that 3 there. So... But to be fair, you can sit down and talk to any of the boys. They're all easy going. I'm sure you will know that yourselves. So there's a lot to talk about. There's connections with some that have maybe played over in England themselves, asking how I'm getting on, what Liverpool's like, the club, what they've done in the last few years. So there's been plenty to talk about and plenty of players that have welcomed me in with open arms, definitely.
We talked to Alejandro Pozuelo last week. He said there's quite a rivalry going on the table tennis table, ping pong. Are you involved in that, or?
I tried to get in, but it's been a few years. So I'll just leave it at that. It's been a few years. So, but not to be fair, I wasn't expecting. There's a few. Lolo, he's quality. Griff as well, and yeah, Pause. I've seen them. I've seen a good few. I'm not at that standard. I'm not going to lie. I'm not there. I'll just sit and watch and. Yeah, I'll just stay there. That's fine.
When we spoke to Chris Mavinga a few weeks ago on this show, back June, July time, he was talking in glowing terms about what it was like for him and his development being in that situation at Liverpool. Just that club environment of such a storied club with a past of developing players and winning things. And I just want to get your thoughts on what it's been like there for you, being in and around that environment over the past couple of years, when this is a team that has achieved so much, and just what it's like to be involved in that Liverpool environment.
Yeah, as you said, especially at the time that I've came in, has been the time where they've rocketed. They've won everything you can really imagine, like you'd want to win as a player. So the 2.5 years I've been in, the spirits have definitely been up there, as you can imagine. The under-23s, we follow the first team schedule. The training's is very similar. So anytime I've been asked to go up, I've been used to what the manager puts out. The standards that you train to are always like kept high throughout the academy to the first team, of course. So being part of that has been a great experience for me myself. I never would have thought anything of that. Like growing up, you just dream of that stuff, like being part of and being involved in something like that. So, but ever since I've been in, it's been good. I've had a few chances to train, and obviously that big game against Aston Villa that probably might not happen again in football, but I was lucky to get the chance to go in there. But yes, the experience is great. Being part of the coaching staff there, they know obviously what to do with developing players, as you said. So the 2 years I've been in, there's been a lot of highs, definitely.
KJ's a Villa fan, by the way, so there might be
I wasn't going to bring that up.
More recently that he watched.
No, I'm not going to bring that up. It's fine.
Yeah,
a lifetime of getting tormented by Liverpool. It's gone our way the last 2 times. I understand it won't happen then again, so I'll enjoy it. But Tony, you've got your chance right away when you've come over. I think that certainly helped your development as well, and you're not just become like a fringe player who's looking to get in. I want to ask you about that ball that you played into the box for Ayo Akinola, because I suggested to Greg Vanney in a press conference recently that before you were signed, he was often trying to play Richie Larea there or Auro when Justin wasn't available, and you brought great balance because you can open your body up a little bit and you can swing in that ball on that left foot. Maybe you can just talk to our viewers a little bit about what that was like to get down that width, look up and play a ball in like that leads to such a massive goal. What was the feeling like inside when that went in?
Yeah, and it was one of those ones, as soon as it comes off your foot, I knew I got a good connection on it. I knew I was going to the back post as well, so he managed to, well, he says to me, I made it easy for him, which is a good compliment. So, but at that moment, even when I first came on, my first few touches, I knew there was space with the way Philadelphia were playing. They were playing a narrow diamond. So that suited me. That's my game. I like to bomb forward, use the space in front of me and put those crosses in. And when the ball from Markey as well, that just set it up. Just ran onto it, 1-2 touches, and then I was where I wanted to be. So it was just all about concentrating on that connection, make sure I was just ultimately in that position. You just make sure you're beating the first man. And I knew as soon as it came off my foot that I'd done that, and all I needed was Ayo to do the finishing touches, and he did that. So the feeling was unbelievable, definitely.
Tony,
he's been here 3 weeks, Stevie, and I think we've already given him the award as the best assist in a Toronto FC jersey from any Scottish player.
Unquestionable.
the only assist from any Scottish player.
You must have got a flick on at the front post, no?
No, nothing.
No?
That was a ball that I'm incapable of doing as well, guys. With my lifting delivery. No assist for me in my Toronto FC. I don't think so anyway.
They hand out assists. They hand out assists easy in MLS, and Stevie still weren't able to get one. So.
I kind of want to ask you, Tony, your hopes and aspirations in your career. You know what? You're now playing first team football. Where are you in your mindset? Maybe you don't want to think too far ahead, but I know what it's like, going out on loan, being at a bigger club, and then when you go back and you maybe step back into that reserve environment, you're like, really, you don't get the same spark from playing. So have you thought that far ahead, or what you're thinking for the next steps of your career?
Yeah, of course. You're always, as you understand, you're always thinking about the future. It's like, it's always in the back of your head. Like one day you'll be just chilling, thinking about what it'll be like. Because obviously this is my first loan, and I don't think many players get loans like this, where teams are going for so many trophies and try to win as much as they can with that winning mentality we spoke about. So going back will be whenever I go back. Like that's another thing in the future. Like no one can plan for that, whether what's going to happen next year. a question that can't be answered at this time. But as you said, going back will be different, definitely. Obviously, I'm not getting the fans, that type of thing from the stadium, a home game, which all the boys tell me is so good, which is sometimes I just think about being unlucky at this time. So definitely going back is something to think about. Of course, first team football is ideal right now. I'm loving every second of it. So I can imagine whatever time I go back, I'll just want more of it. I just want to get straight back out and get going again, because I've turned 21 now, as I said. So this is ideally where I want to be from now, and then the next couple of years just kicking on, try to get as much experience and minutes under my belt. So I'm definitely thinking about going back, but at the same time, I just want to keep playing first team football, and at here, Toronto, that's where I'm at. Yeah.
And lots more games, lots of big games to come in the next few weeks for TFC. Absolutely. Congratulations on what you've achieved so far with the club, hitting the ground running, Tony. And thanks so much for your time today. We'll let you get back to the ping pong tournament.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tony.
Tony Gallacher of TFC, live from Hartford with us on Footy Talks. That just about wraps up this week's show. We'll be on the air on Sunday this week, isn't it? All the days just blend into one at this point, I think. But Sunday night, Nippert Stadium, it will be TFC's final visit there, because Cincinnati are moving to a new stadium, hopefully next season. So it'll be on the turf at Nippert Stadium. They had a big win. Was it last year, the 5 goals that they scored, or was it the year before? Last year. Must have been last year.
You and I did the game, Luke, actually. Stevie was...
Yeah, I was away with Canada.
So, 5.
Well, I remember it. It was memorable. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll be there for that. And obviously, we talk about what Greg Vanney might do with his lineup. But for TFC, we've seen them get through these difficult games against difficult opposition, Columbus and Philadelphia, New York City FC. Sometimes they are able to raise their game, aren't they, in those big games, KJ? And it's, as a player, Stevie, you would know, sometimes when you go into those games and Cincinnati scored 8 goals all season, that's when it's maybe a little bit more difficult to reach those levels that you have when you're playing a Columbus or a Philly. Yeah, that's the team talk, isn't it? Don't take this lightly. Just, focus on ourselves. It's much what we talked about with John. It's modern day coaching. I think modern day management is, let's do what we're good at and let's stick to our game plan. And whoever's wearing that shirt, whoever's lucky enough to play certain positions, go and do the job and just treat every game like it's your last. It's such a cliche statement, KJ, but I love saying it, because as you get older in your career, that's how you start to think. There's no reason why you should think that way every single appearance that you have with your football club.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting to see where the selection and then the mindset go out there and win it. No, I think no matter what team they put out there, they'll expect to win, and they should win the game. That doesn't mean they will. And in the past, they've sometimes struggled with that kind of expectation against some of them lower teams, and they get up for these games because the TFC coming in are, the Eastern Conference champs. So these teams will step up a little bit, and I think there's an expectation there that TFC will just go out there and win it, no matter what they do. And to be frank, it should be an inner expectation from whoever gets that shirt. I think Greg Vanney has been reluctant a little bit to change too much because he doesn't want to lose that momentum. But if he does change it, it's up to those players on Sunday to say, this is my chance. And the rest of those players who aren't playing right now have reached the level. Now I've got to reach that level and beyond to say that I want to play more minutes. That's ultimately how you evolve a top-class team over and over again, is that you set the standard and they have to come in and meet that standard consistently to say, I've now got the trust of the coaching staff here. Thanks to John Herdman and to Tony Gallacher for joining the show today. Thanks to you for watching and listening wherever you are. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And we'll see you Sunday, TFC against Cincinnati. Have a good week.